Hi, this is Eternal King bringing you another MMR video today. I wanted to do a quick run through and a potential guide of my new, I'm going to call it top tier Eternal Ryze deck. So a lot of it has to do with piloting. So it took me a while to get enough games in with this deck to feel overwhelmingly confident. My win streaks are things like 9 out of 10 games. And that's not like one-off win streaks that you'll see posted on Runeterra AR. This is duplicated success. So, like for example, the worst win streak I'll get will be like winning 3-1, which is a 75% win rate. Like a mid-experience win rate would be something like 6 games in a row, and then the top end of that win rate would be something like 10 games in a row of wins. That is duplicated success. So there's really no doubt that this Ryze list is top tier. I would consider it just as good as something like upgraded Zero Relia. It's great into Eddy. It's really good into memes. So in terms of meme punishing, it's basically can't really be compared to anything else. It's just like if people are playing bad decks, Ryze will win. If people are playing the top decks like Eddy, Ryze will win. The only thing you could do is run, for example, be like a comprehensive aggro package and pilot that optimally. Someone like me, I think someone like me might be able to give myself playing this deck a run for its money. So me being the top aggro player in Eternal, and then me being the top OTK player in Eternal, both facing off against each other, giving themselves a run for their money. Even then, it would be tough. This deck is designed to be the most consistent Ryze deck available. It's not the most consistent in the mirror is the only thing, but again, the mirror doesn't happen because Ryze is bad. The Ryze list that is on Runeterra AR wins 45% of games. It is a bad deck. Something like Shreema Ryze is a bad deck, so don't run that. This is optimal Ryze. It does well into everything. It really has no bad matchups. It just has bad hand states. So first off, Trinket Trade. Again, it's a pretty staple Ryze card because it creates the Otterpuss and it basically counts as 2 spell generations. But the manifest actually matters, right? Like if you manifest a Nopify, if you manifest a 2-mana bounce, there are good things to manifest. You could also manifest another Ryze tutor. You can manifest a lot of things. Claws of the Dragon being the other chumper, and then Eye of the Dragon being the third chumper. I keep this deck exceptionally light on chumpers, and I find that it is optimal for Ryze. I have tried this with more chumpers, it dilutes the deck. Do not do it, right? So stuff like, I have tried, if we just do Lifesteal, so life. I have tried Tasty Feyfolk, so I've tried slotting in the Tasty Feyfolk. I've tried slotting in, some people like to put in the Burst Speed 1-mana card, which is Jury Rig. I've tried those things. I think it's suboptimal. I think with Steel Gale, again, I know, I can speak, with authority that I've played enough games now that I know that this version of Ryze is optimal. It is the Steel Gale variant with tons and tons of healing. It basically makes it impossible for opponents to break through you. That's the thing. So, buffed Ritual Renewal, slept on card in something like Ryze. Just so you know, this is basically a cycling Decimate, right? So, like, I'm an aggro player. I think that Decimate's a great card. It is a well-balanced card in this format. This is a 4-mana Decimate that cycles. It's a reverse Decimate, right? Decimate kills your opponent in the aggro shell. You spend 6 mana for it. This is, you healing for 4 mana and cycling 1, and counteracting a Decimate or an Auction Fervor or what have you. It is a very good card in the buffed state that it is in, and people sleep on it, and that's their own fault. It's just poor card evaluation on their part. Homecoming, of course, again, staple bounce card in Ryze. 2 denies, pretty much mandatory. You have to stop your opponent from doing certain things. Steel Gale being the new card. Why is Steel Gale good? Well, there's a lot of cards in LOR, and there are so many cards in LOR that basically get value pre-swing, right? So once you commit to the swing, they are getting value. Things like skill procs off of Annie Jin do not have to hit your Nexus to skill proc. They just happen as soon as they swing. So being able to pre-commit a stun is very good. The other move is you're able to pre-commit a stun on the move before the opponent has the attack token, right? And then the third application of this card, actually would say there's 4 applications of Steel Gaze in Gale and Ryze that makes it so good. The third application being that it removes Spell Shield. So unlike all the other stuns in the Ryze deck, things like Steel Tempest, this is a targeted stun effect. So you can, again, remove your opponent's Spell Shield whenever you want to. If it has to happen pre-attack, then you can remove Spell Shield pre-attack and then bounce them. Combine it with a Homecoming or a Will of Ionia or an Unworthy Soul. So the fact that Steel Gale is a targeted stun, very good. The final application is Ryze himself. So when Ryze swings, when he's leveled, he will proc mana landmark, and that means that you can basically do something like pre-commit the Steel Gale, swing with the Ryze, get the instant mana refund. So you do it all at once. So you swing with the Ryze, you stick the Steel Gale on the stack, you immediately get your mana refunded, and then that creature is not attacking next turn. It is very powerful. One of the most powerful things a Ryze deck can do. It allows you to essentially free swing with leveled Ryze, which no other Ryze deck can do, by the way. There's not a single Ryze deck in the existence of Ryze that can actually successfully swing with Ryze in a mid-range shell. Like, if you're any mid-range opponent that you're facing off against, you can't swing with Ryze. Ryze will just die. But thanks to Steel Gale, you're allowed to basically always swing with Ryze now, and that's huge because you're getting your either your ping proc or your card draw or your healing or your stun. You're getting all those landmarks procking with the guaranteed stun off of Steel Gale. Again, Time Trick is a 3-up mandatory. You need to dig through your deck. You need to get key pieces. You need to find landmarks, whatever the case may be. Entreat is a key piece. Typically, on average, you will hard draw 1 Ryze, and then Entreat lets you get extra Ryzes. And either way, Ryze gets value, right? So if Ryze dies, you have the other Ryze. If Ryze doesn't die, you get 3 mana, draw 3, which is huge. So again, I would say that this deck is exceptionally powerful. It is one of the most powerful decks, I think, in the meta, and having played it in the last 3 days straight, probably averaging out something like 30 games, 20 games, all of them basically wins. I might have lost like 2 out of 20, which is 90% win rate, right? Very, very high win rate off of Ryze. It has the pub smash value into memes. It has the anti-eddy value into meta decks. It just kind of is the whole package. The other deck that's obviously very good, which I think is nice in terms of being on the other polar end of the spectrum, is going to be upgraded Azir Aurelia, right? So we're talking about best decks to play when ladder unlocks. Upgraded Azir Aurelia, very, very good. I think the best counter into my Ryze deck would be upgraded Azir Aurelia with Emperor's Army, because you're just going to attack 3 times in a single turn with tokens that have like 4 or 5 attack. And there's nothing that my stall list in Ryze could do to that level of high synergy, high rally play. If you're playing a Taric, well, that doesn't matter, right? If you're trying to do like Taric rally, I'll just bounce the Taric. But the problem with a token-based deck is that bounces have like no value, right? So because you don't want to bounce a Sand Soldier or stun a Sand Soldier, it's highly mana inefficient to do that. In certain circumstances, you'll do it if you have to, but again, it's just a terrible matchup. If you want to beat basically top level Ryze, my deck, the best thing to do is to run my version of Azir Aurelia. So basically, it's like my deck or my deck. These are the best decks in Eternal, objectively speaking. Period. Full stop. Obviously, Azir Aurelia is better into a highly competitive situation where you want the extra attacks and pushing for huge damage and all that stuff. So if you're trying to be as competitive as possible, Azir Aurelia would obviously be the superior deck. But there's a lot of, again, playing Eternal now and being challenged by such a diverse group of players from Standard, from Eternal, from all over. They've all come to challenge me. The thing that I've learned is that not everyone is a competitive style player. Some of them are more like Sunny style players. They like to play very strange decks with very strange win cons, and their goal is more so to confuse the opponent than it is to outright outmuscle the opponent. And in those instances, Ryze is insanely good because it doesn't matter what you're doing, this deck will just stop you from doing it, right? We're hard running 9 bounces in this deck, right? 3 Homecomings, 3 Will of Ionias, 3 Unworthy Souls. We're hard running 6 stuns. Steel Gale, Steel Tempest, plus the landmark. So call that 9 stuns if you want, if you include the stun landmark. 9 stuns, 9 bounces, a crap ton of healing and stall. You just can't get through this, right? You just can't get through this. So after, 20 to 30 games of pure wins, you can't beat this deck. The only way to beat this deck is to get your head right, pull it out of your behind, and start running actual competitive decks in Eternal. Things like Optimal Annie-Jhin, Optimal Azir Aurelia. Then you're actually going to have like a decent chance of beating me. But if you're just like running Sunny style decks, essentially memes, if you're running Eddie style decks, essentially go big decks or tempo mid range and stuff like that. Like there's so many things that you're gonna struggle with. You essentially don't get me wrong. Every deck has an okay chance to beat Ryze if you just draw the nuts essentially. Like for example, I played 3 games into Jax Ornn. Jax Ornn is not a good deck. It's a 45% win rate deck. In terms of my number of wins I had against that deck alone, I won 2 games and I lost 1 game. 1 game they had the nuts and I had a below average hand state. The other 2 games they didn't even get to play. They play the Ornn, it gets bounced. Like nothing their deck's doing really matters, right? So again, very, very good deck. I just want to, provide this final video in terms of like where am I at personally. Now that, we're getting closer and closer to Eternal Ladder, I'm beyond prepped now. I thought I was prepped before. Now I'm just like not losing. So if I was prepared before, now I'm simply unstoppable, untouchable. And again, that's not hubris, that's just math. That is just pure math from games played. This is Eternal King, signing out.